I just picked up this brand new Phil Collins live bootleg. This is so mysterious. There is so much mystery going around the internet, so much misinformation about this. We're going to try to dig into this. There's so much to talk about. It sounds incredible, but man, there's a lot of really weird stuff about this. Let's dive in. So first, I want to give a shout out to Darren, who is a viewer, a subscriber. Thanks, Darren. He's a local. He and I are from the same area, and we shop at the same record store, and he posted on Facebook that he had a physical copy of this, and I'd seen it floating around. People had told me about it. It's a brand new double disc Phil Collins live vinyl record. We're going to talk all about it today. Darren posted a picture of it on Facebook, and he had a glowing review. And I didn't know it was out. I didn't know it was even in Canada. And so lucky for me, and thanks to Darren, I was able to go down to our local record store and grab a copy. In fact, I messaged the record store on Facebook at like 11 p.m. He got back to me at like 1 a.m. And then I confirmed that I was coming to pick it up at like 2 a.m. And then I was there the next morning. There's so much I want to talk about. We're going to talk about the sound. We're going to talk about where this was recorded. We're going to talk about, is this a legal pressing? Is it a bootleg pressing? What do we know about this pressing? There's some interesting information on Discogs about this. Okay, so let's talk about what this is, what we know. Okay, let's show some pictures here. So this is called Phil Collins at the Tower, Philadelphia broadcast, 1982. This is a double disc vinyl. It's very nice, really well put together, pretty good graphic design, a little story about Phil and about this recording. Allegedly, this is an FM broadcast from the King Biscuit Network in America. Allegedly, I'm saying allegedly because we don't know these things 100%, recorded in Philadelphia on December 10th, 1982. Here's a look at the track listing. Can you see that okay? This is from the Hello, I Must Be Going tour. So just to kind of, I'll read this. Side A is, I Don't Care Anymore, Thunder and Lightning, I Cannot Believe It's True, This Must Be Love, Through These Walls, I Missed Again, Behind the Lines, You Know What I Mean, The Roof is Leaking, Don't Let Him Steal Your Heart Away, The West Side, If Leaving Me Is Easy, In the Air Tonight, Like China, It Don't Matter to Me, and So to F, the Brand X tune. And then we have a picture here of Frida, which doesn't make any sense, but okay. There we go, very nice, double disc. Want to take a look at the records? Black, always nice touch, eh? Black sleeve. I've got some pros and I've got some cons, mostly pros. This is really, really good. One of the cons is this is, I think, 150 or 160 gram as opposed to, oops, sorry here, guys, as opposed to 180 gram, but I'm just complaining. So first off, this sounds incredible. What I am so happy about, and I'll tell you, I've had this for about 72 hours. I have played it at least a half dozen times, if not more. It's one of my favorite purchases in the past few years. I have already listened to this more than I've listened to the Genesis BBC box set, no disrespect, but this is an incredible record. It sounds really, really good. My favorite thing about this is the track listing. We get songs that we don't get to hear very much from Phil. This is before he had mega hits. So we get to hear deep cuts like This Must Be Love. I don't have a live version of that. Certainly don't have a live version on vinyl. I mean, I probably do like a digital bootleg, but these are songs that like after No Jacket Required, he wouldn't play anymore, right? Same with like Behind the Lines, you don't get to hear very much. You Know What I Mean, even though he played it actually most recently. Thunder and Lightning, oh my gosh, I love that song. And So to F, which is really cool. Like China, I know he played that on the next tour, The West Side. So there's like so many like deep, deep cuts on here. In fact, almost every song from Hello, I Must Be Going at face value is covered, with the exception of like I'm Not Moving, Tomorrow Never Knows, Why Can't It Wait Till Morning, Do You Know, Do You Care, and then You Can't Hurry Love, which we'll talk about. So let's talk about there's so much mystery to this, like a little bit suspicious. First of all, if you go to Discogs and you read about this record, it says that there was no FM broadcast of the Philadelphia show in 1998 on King Biscuit. So I don't know how to confirm or deny that, because I mean, I'm going to need your help, because I don't know like if King Biscuit has like an archive of like all of the shows that they broadcast, because if you search for this, all you're going to find is like the CD version of this. But here's what I did. On Discogs, they claim that this is actually Perkins Palace. Maybe this picture is, I don't know, but like they claim that it's actually Perkins Palace, also from 1982. But what I did was I went to YouTube and I listened to a couple select tracks from Perkins Palace and I compared it to this recording. And I'll have to say, in the two instances I compared it, I do not believe this to be Perkins Palace. I'll tell you why. On In the Air Tonight, and this is one of the pros/cons, mostly of a con, but on the In the Air Tonight version on Perkins Palace, Phil's vocals during the drum solo are incredible. His vocals barely break. They could have been overdubbed because it was a video, but they sound really, really good. Whereas on this, In the Air Tonight sounds really rough. Like his vocals are really scratchy and he's not hitting the high notes. But I love that, right? Because Phil's been a perfectionist. Genesis have been perfectionists. So they don't release things that have warts in them. We know they've mixed Seconds Out. We know they mixed serious hits. We know there's been times where they pick the best performances from the best shows. So to have like a full performance, I think, where there's mistakes in his vocal, I love that. I love that. But this version of In the Air Tonight, his vocals are sounding pretty rough, whereas the Perkins Palace, his vocals are sounding okay. The other thing is at the start of The Roof is Leaking, right when the piano starts playing, there is a distinct whistle and cheers from the audience on this recording that's very different from the whistles and cheers that start on the Perkins Palace recording. So if you listen to the audience, if I had an easier way to rip the audio from this vinyl, I think we could do a better comparison. But so far, I do not believe they're the same recording. But I'm open to be proven wrong. Let's talk about the pros. The quality of packaging is really nice. Very thick spine. I like the minimal design. There's a few things wrong with it. I mean, for example, this picture is kind of a little out of context, although maybe it's around the same time period. But otherwise, the packaging is really nice, really minimal. Like I said, I like the black paper sleeves. It's kind of a nice touch. Double disc is a nice touch that they didn't try to cram it all into one disc. There's not actually like a ton of music on each side either, so it doesn't get distorted towards the center of the record. Really nice feel to this. Very happy with the packaging. The sound quality is really good. Now, what am I comparing it to? I'm comparing it to this bootleg I have here, which I've shown you before and I've played you copies of on this channel before, and a very similar track listing. This is an old bootleg from Holland from November 21st, 1982. So about a month before this one, or a couple weeks before this one. And this is an audience recording. In fact, this sounds like somebody was in the back of the room and butt dialed someone. That's like how bad this is. Not to mention the tape speeds are like going up and down. And like Phil sounds like a chipmunk on some of these recordings. I've done a review of this. I love owning this because it's an artifact and it's so bad that it's fun. This is nothing like it. I believe this has been remastered. I mean, like a little bit, a light touch of remastering, but the bass is super thick on some songs. Could be a sprinkle more high ends. There's a little bit of vocal muffling here and there, but that could also be the source. Could have been the way that Phil was holding the microphone. Honestly, it's so good. The sound quality is so good. Some tracks vary from others, you know what I mean? Depending on the busyness, depending on the mix in the room at the time. But I was blown away at the sound quality of this. Like, I would put it almost pretty close to serious hits. Not as good as like Hot Night in Paris, but like, it's really good. It's double vinyl, like I mentioned. I think that's a huge plus, that they didn't try to compress everything onto one record or eliminate some of those deep cuts that I love, like This Must Be Love or Thunder and Lightning, that they didn't just take the hits, you know? Again, the track listing is huge. The track listing is so great. I mean, how much overlap does this have from serious hits? Like, other than In the Air Tonight, right? That's it. So like, that to me is really cool, that we have all these songs we don't get to hear very often. Gosh, I hope the new people in charge of the catalog release something like this from the Hello, I Must Be Going era. I hope these guys will do the same thing with the No Jacket Required tour. I would love a fuller concert of But Seriously that includes Hand in Hand, and it includes the slower version of Doesn't Anybody Stay Together Anymore. Anyway, we're not gonna talk about that. I forgot to mention Hand in Hand isn't on here. That is like one of my biggest cons. Well, let's get into the con. Oh, I forgot to mention that Hand in Hand and Drone is also two songs. We're gonna talk about that in a second. That isn't on here. It's too bad. Before we move on to the cons, let's talk about FM broadcast for a second. So this is an FM broadcast, allegedly. Sounds really good. It's not an audience recording. I can definitely say that much is true. I don't even think it's a board recording. Like, you know, one of the things that you can hear in some of those board recordings is that you actually don't get the audience very much because it's just the mics on the stage. And so you do hear the audience quite a lot. The other pro is that this is put together, this is sequenced very well. So the talking in between songs has been removed, which It's always nice to have, but you can't fit as much on a record if you leave Phil's talking in between. So the talking has essentially all been removed. And then they crossfade the crowd. So it'll go, one song will end and then you'll hear the crowd, and then a few seconds, the next song will start. That's a really nice touch. Same thing they do on Sirius Hits Live. So I know you're dying to know, like, is this an illegal bootleg? Is this an official release? We're gonna talk about that in a second. Let's just go through the cons real quick. Speaking of, is this an illegal bootleg? Isn't it suspicious that You Can't Hurry Love isn't on here? I mean, it's the biggest song ever. He definitely played it at the show. Why isn't it on the vinyl? Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Another con is that it's overly mysterious. I mean, there's really, like, in the copyright, which we'll talk about in a second, there's a lot of super mysterious things about this. There are a few songs, I think, that were played that night that are missing, with including You Can't Hurry Love and Hand in Hand. And I think People Get Ready is the other song that's missing. There's no credits. There's no credits in here. There's no credits for who recorded this. There's no credits on who owns the copyright, who's the publisher, who wrote the songs, who played on this tour, who was there and managing the band that night or recording it. Or there's no credits for King Biscuit other than just saying it's from King Biscuit. There's no photo credits. These are weird things. Another con is it's like a little hard to find. It's not on Amazon. A lot of places on UK places at this moment is saying it's a pre-order, that it's not officially out yet. I think it like technically was released around the time that this video is being released. So it's very hard to find. Honestly, it was just unbelievable that I was able to grab it here in Canada. Again, shout out to Darren. Thank you for that. Okay, so those are my cons. There's not a lot of cons. Honestly, I would highly recommend you pick this up. It sounds so good. It's like honestly one of my favorite things I've added to my collection in a very long time. Okay, where's it from? So the company is called Gimme Recordings. We got a barcode down there. Let's talk about the mystery about this. So as I mentioned, on Discogs, they say this is not actually live at the Tower. It's Perkins Palace. I disagree with that. We'll leave it at that. This says on December 10th, 1982, Phil Collins put on an extraordinary show at the Tower Theater in Philadelphia. Although no tracks from the Genesis back catalog were performed, he included the set with a superb version of Brand X's and Soda F. The show was recorded for live FM broadcast across America by the King Biscuit Network and is available in its entirety on this LP. That's not true. We're missing You Can't Hurry Love. We're missing People Get Ready. And I believe we're missing Hand in Hand. Is this a legal bootleg or is it an illegal bootleg? Well, first of all, it's brand new. It's sold in record stores. You can buy it online. So that's kind of interesting. Here's what the guy at the record store told me. He told me, and I got to pull, our audience is going to set the record straight here. I know you are. But he told me that a law was passed in the UK recently that allowed FM broadcasts to be reproduced and sold. Without permission, I'm not sure. But basically, if it was broadcast over the radio, it's open season. Now, does that mean that they don't have to pay a royalty to even to the person who recorded it, like King Biscuit or BBC or whoever? I don't know. Does that mean that they don't have to pay publishing? That can't be true. Songwriters should always receive credit unless the songwriters are paid for the broadcast performance, but they don't get a mechanical license. I don't know. I mean, this is super gray area. So if you find Gimme Recordings online, you'll see that they're also doing other records from Genesis and from Kiss and from Nick Cave. So they're really getting into this. I'm not going to say whether this is like legitimate or illegal. I know it sounds great. So if you're worried about buying it, I mean, it sounds fantastic. I'm holding it here. I've played it a dozen times. It sounds great. But there are some suspicious things. Like I mentioned, we don't have the hit songs on here, which could get them into a little bit more trouble, like You Can't Hurry Love. Also, the copyright tag is very, very suspicious. I don't know if you can see this. So let me read it to you. No part of this package or artwork may be reproduced without written permission of Gimme Recordings. Copyright 2022 Gimme Recordings. So is that talking about the audio? It just says no part of this package or artwork. So I don't think they're actually claiming any copyright to the audio recording. I think they're just scaring people away, saying like, please don't copy this. But they don't really have the rights to it. There's, like I mentioned, there's no publishing info. There's no songwriting info. There's no even master recording info. Even if you look at the copyright on the vinyl itself, it just repeats that tag that I just said. Is it possible that if they had included some like mega big hits, that maybe that they would be chased after by Tony Smith? We'll see, because I would love them to do a no jacket required version of this. Is there an FM broadcast that they can use from the No Jacket Required tour? We know there's FM broadcasts of the Dance Into the Light tour. There's FM broadcasts of the Both Sides tours. There's FM broadcasts of the But Seriously tour. I think the Madison Square Garden was done. So if they were to press that, which would be awesome, and they were to include tunes like Another Day in Paradise and Susudio and Two Hearts, would that throw up more red flags? Would people start to get upset? Like, can they fly under the radar because these are all deep cuts? I don't know. I'm just speculating here. I don't think this is 100% legit. I mean, I feel like if it was, we'd be hearing about it a little bit from the Phil Collins camp on their social media. Is this going to fly under the radar? I don't really know. I mean, honestly, if it's true that you can legally press and sell an FM recording. Now, remember, this was only in the UK, so I think it can only be sold in the UK. That's possible that you can still import it to other countries. If that's true, that any FM broadcast is fair game, then I don't see a problem with them pressing the Madison Square Garden recording But Seriously tour. Please do. Or the No Jacket Required tour. Or the King Biscuit Invisible Touch show from LA. At the Forum. That would be fantastic episode. I have a laundry list of FM broadcasts in full. And I mean, listen, one of the complaints about the BBC box set was that they're just like songs here and there, right? That there's no complete performance. And so if it's going to take these other companies to do the thing that we've been asking Genesis and Phil Collins to release, then that's okay. I would love an official live box set from Phil Collins. My goodness. If we were to have this remastered, and then similar from No Jacket Required, similar from But Seriously, similar from Both Sides, similar from Dance Into the Light, similar from the Farewell Tour. Oh my goodness, like on like double vinyl each. I don't know if there's a market for it. I would buy 5 copies of that box set. I couldn't care less how much it costs. That would be amazing. But that's on my wish list. And so if Gimme Recordings is watching this, there you go. That's what we want. Honestly, there's a lot of mystery surrounding this record. I try not to play any music on this channel because it'll get me in trouble with YouTube. But I thought it's important that you hear a comparison of the sound quality of this recording with this audience recording from the same tour that I have here, just so you can get a sense of how great this sounds. So let me show you a clip of Behind the Lines. First, this live 1982 in Holland, and then I'll show you a short clip from Behind the Lines from this recording. So as you can hear, a huge difference and a really lovely sound from this recording. Okay, that didn't sound that great. That was just me holding up my iPhone in the living room. So it actually sounds way better than that. There are so many cool things. If we go track by track, I don't care anymore. It sounds really nice because you have this a little bit elongated intro as the crowd's seeing Phil come out and hearing him and he gets started. I don't care anymore. It sounds really good on this. I talked in another video about how Through These Walls, which is on this recording, kind of won me over because it's not as goofy and carnival sounding as the album version. There's a more of a distorted Daryl guitar on there that sounds really nice. I Missed Again and Behind the Lines are really great. Like I mentioned, In the Air Tonight is probably one of the weaker tunes on here. You Know What I Mean is a fantastic song. And here's what I love so much about this recording. Phil makes a lyric mistake in You Know What I Mean. He goes to start the second verse with the line of the first verse. He realizes he makes a mistake. He stops singing, and then he plays another progression and then starts the second verse again. Very subtle. You wouldn't notice it if you're just listening to it in the background. But it's the kind of thing that Phil would never release into the wild, and I think it's a shame, right? That happens, especially so early in your career. It happens that you mess up the lyrics. And that's what we love about bootlegs, whether they're wave or MP3 bootlegs or they're vinyl bootlegs, is that you hear these warts and all. Stuff that would get polished later on in his career. And so the version of You Know What I Mean on here is really, really nice. I think somebody else mentioned this, maybe it was Darren who mentioned this about the Phoenix horns. They're unreal. I mean, they're unreal on Like China. Unreal on Like China. And of course, I Missed Again, It Don't Matter to Me, I Cannot Believe It's True. I mean, it's a really horn-heavy record. Okay, I've gone on about this so much. Make sure you check it out. I'm going to leave a link in the description for this. I'll try to provide some other links if I can find them. I want to ask you, what do you know about this recording? What do you know about the Live at the Tower? Who was there? Maybe if you were at that concert on December 10th, 1982, that you would know if this is the recording from that show. Who out here has this and has already gotten their hands on it? I'd love to know that as well. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe.